Lots of news to cover.
What a
With
week.
Yeah, what a week. Yeah, I think the biggest news for our podcast anyway, and it's been something that I personally have been covering on my social media, but in also my columns, and I covered here on the podcast. I actually had some inside information, turned out not to be true, so that happens.
I was
That
gonna say,
happened. Yeah.
this is what we've learned: is your sources suck.
Yeah, basically, and I showed you the source,
You
right? So
did,
like,
you did.
it's like a legitimate source. Like this
I
person is
you,
high ranking.
you sent it to me, and I went, "Oh, this is the biggest bullshit I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah,
But yeah, I got it too.
yeah.
Just
So
don't
so let's
never
go ahead.
never believe anyone in that business. That is the
No,
moral of that story.
that
They lie.
absolutely. So last week, whenever I guess I started the fans for Slammiversary hashtag probably a couple of weeks ago, right? And that was just getting fans riled up, and the goal was to annoy Impact and the Impact management and the ownership at Anthem to let fans attend Slammiversary this year. Part of it is, hey, I do care about the production of the company. I think the wrestlers have been working hard, and I think they deserve to wrestle in front of a live audience. And I also selfishly, I just think it looks better on TV and it's a more enjoyable
Oh God,
experience
yeah,
for me, right?
absolutely.
And I typically, whenever I'm trying to get something done in life, it's usually for a selfish reason, and it's a very selfish reason. I enjoy the product more when there's people in the audience. I personally, I'm not going to fly to fucking Nashville for this thing, unless I get paid for it. To be honest with you, I'm all the way in California. I'm not going. If I were, within 6 hours, I'd probably be there. To be honest with you, but I'm just not. So
I could drive to Nashville.
yeah,
I'm not
and
going to.
no, well, it'd
I
be
could.
it's well, and I'll explain a little bit more as to why you probably won't. These are probably going to be steep ticket prices because this is going to be very limited, and they got a whole VIP thing going on. So anyway, last week I did explain. So we had, I had a source that DM'd one of my readers to the column, and that guy sent me the screenshots of the conversation. Somebody within Impact, stated basically it gave a few reasons as to why he thought that maybe that there wouldn't be fans of Slammiversary. Now either he was just making this up or he legit didn't know. And David Penzer publicly, and he was not the guy, but David Penzer like legitimately told me, hey, like I honestly had no idea. So I believe that there are a lot of people in that company that really just didn't know that they were going to let fans in at Slammiversary this year. So
Nope.
this guy that sent the DMs, the reasons he gave, he said like, Skyway Studios were re-wrestle, not you can't hold an event there safely with fans because of the pandemic. Okay. And then when it was brought up to him, maybe go to a larger venue, then he brought up, maybe that money would be an issue there and that they couldn't move it to Texas or Florida because those markets have been oversaturated by not only WWE and AEW, but by UFC. And I was like, okay, that's fair, but let's be honest, how many people were you really looking at coming to these things? So, anyway, that kind of blew over, and I wrote an article about it. I talked about it here, and then on Tuesday, I got invited by their head of public relations, Ross Foreman, to attend their press pass event. Impact was promoting tonight's awesome, I always say awesome Iron Man match between TJP and Josh Alexander. The whole thing was centered around them, and when they finally got to me, it was like an hour in of just me listening to a bunch of fucking Mark questions from all these different so-called journalists. Even a couple that I like respect. I was just like, oh my god, they're really just asking some kayfabe bullshit on these questions, right? Complete waste of time. Well, then they finally get to me. I'm kind of, even though I've done these a couple times, I'm still kind of the new guy in this journalism world, and I hate to even use the word journalist in my with my name attached to it. I don't really feel like I am one of those. I really don't work hard at this stuff. I'm just a guy who talks a lot of shit. So I'm on there. I wait my hour, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask her a real fucking question. So I get on there, and first I suck up to Gail Kim immediately, and I talk about how I met her husband on a USO tour in Afghanistan. That is a true story. I shook his hand, and then I said, "Hey, where's Gail?" and then he just said, something funny about Gail, and something really nice, and he was a cool guy, right? So I use that as my in to lure them into liking me, and then I asked my question, "Hey, what about fans of Slammiversary?" And of course, Josh Alexander did the coolest like meme face ever, where he's just kind of adoring the question, which I thought was kind of cool. And then Ross Foreman hits me. Go ahead.
Kudos for how quickly you snapped that picture, by the way, too, in the video. I caught that.
Yes, yes, I am quick. I saw that face. I was like, nope, that is a memeable face, and it's been going
It's
around.
fast. It's very, very fast of you. Very quick witted. I tip my cap to you, sir.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but then, Ross Foreman, he said that, hey, no decision has been made yet on that. Is it possible that on Tuesday that decision had not been made, and they didn't have the long press release that they just released today with all of the details about all of the fan events that are going to be happening during Slammiversary with those tickets that they're selling, and all of the goodies and amenities that you will get with those tickets? Is it possible that that decision hadn't been made yet?
Is
I
it
ge-
possible?
yeah,
Yes.
I guess it's possible. Is it likely?
No.
No. It's much more likely that I got lied to by their head of PR, which is fine, right? I expect to get lied to, but I feel like as when you're part of the press, your job is to press them for information. You have to make them lie to you. You have to at least ask the questions, even if you don't think they're going to tell you the truth. Now, I could have asked a follow-up question. I could have pushed the issue, but I felt that if I did, I'd end up being confrontational, and that's not that enjoyable. And again, I'm not a journalist. I'm just a dude. So, I let it go, and then I asked a dumb question after that TJP kind of ran off with for about 5 minutes, and it was over. So anyway, to make a long story more boring, I tried to get to the bottom of it, but eventually got it done. So at Slammiversary at Skyway Studios, the place that's too unsafe to hold an event for fans, they're actually going to have a limited number of seats available. I don't know how much the tickets are going to be priced at. You'll probably hear this, tomorrow. Like tonight's Thursday, so this podcast usually drops early Friday morning. So maybe by the time you're listening to this, that information will already be out. And, but I guess by my column tomorrow, that information will be in there, very likely. But I think this is a big win, a home run. I think this is great.
Yeah. You beat the drum more than anybody. Do I believe that it was your rabble rousing that forced Impact into this decision? No. What I believe is our source has had points, right? And I
Mhm.
jokingly said, so we finally reached the point where it's become too expensive for a wrestling promotion to run a show with fans. And I was making fun of that idea. I thought it was stupid. Based on that, I have a hunch that they literally couldn't. They wanted to run with fans, but they wanted to run in a better venue, but couldn't.
Yeah.
So we're stuck here, and they're making the best. Can I prove that that is my point? No, but why announce this now when you literally asked a question and they waited to release that a day later? It's all weird. I think they wanted to do this, but they wanted to have the show with fans clearly, but they
Yeah.
weren't able to. I don't think they could secure a better venue. So they're making the best of what they have. Former Impact wrestler champion Kevin Nash pointed out that today on Twitter that Tennessee is actually in the bottom 5 in the country for states with vaccinations. So it's like 20 some percent of the population of Tennessee has been vaccinated. So our source did have a bit of a point.
Yes, yes. And one of his things, I didn't actually go into it in my column or even last week. He was talking about when the pandemic first hit, he got into Nashville, and there were just people walking around everywhere, indoors and outdoors, not wearing masks, not really respecting the pandemic. And I was like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. Hey, I went to Missouri last year in the summer and deep in the pandemic to go visit some family, and it didn't exist there. So I totally get it. So, and Missouri is not that far away from Tennessee. So that all makes sense. At the end of the day, they did get fans. I do think that your theory, I think that's interesting, and I think that it's a very likely scenario that, like, hey, look, they had Skyway in their back pocket, and they just didn't tell anybody, but they were trying to secure a better spot, and they just couldn't do it in a cost effective manner. It's like, hey, if we run, so they in their first Slammiversary commercial, they had Ryman Auditorium kind of like
Mhm.
prominently displayed. So that led people to think that that's where they're holding it. Maybe they just couldn't get a deal done. But hey, look, you guys need the business. We need a venue. Let's work out a deal. We don't think that we're going to sell a ton of tickets because we still want it to be somewhat safe since it's an indoor arena, right? Um, and the capacity for that building's only like 2,000 or something like that. Somebody looked it up for me and sent it to me. So maybe they were like, okay, we could probably do 500 tickets. Can you give us a discount? Maybe they just couldn't work it out. So who knows? Who knows what the real story is?
Yeah, there could be a cultural thing too between a Canadian company. Canada's been very much different in handling this pandemic than the United States. So it's possible the two companies, like Impact and the arena in the state of Tennessee, just couldn't all get on the same page to promote this, because you got to roll the dice a little bit. AEW rolled the dice this past weekend, and so far
So
seems
far, so
okay.
good. The Anthem is based out of Winnipeg, right? Len Asper is a Winnipeg
Mhm.
guy. I know I don't know shit about hockey, but I do know that the Winnipeg Jets, they're in the playoffs, and they had a hockey game where they allowed 50 fans into the building. I don't know how true that is, but I did see that on Twitter, so it sounds like it's true, and it sounds like a Canadian thing to do.
Our friend Paul's from Winnipeg. Maybe he can
Yes.
answer that question and verify if that's real or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't follow hockey. I don't know. Like I said, Canada and the U.S. has handled this differently. It's weird. Like Impact is kind of a Southern promotion now, but it isn't really. Like it's got this weird DNA. So it all kind of makes sense when you break it down. I don't think they wanted to run the TV studio, but I said to you last week, I said studio wrestling in studios has been done since like the 50s.
Yeah.
They could do this if they wanted to, and they to. I was correct.
Yeah.
So you know what? Regardless, I'm glad there's going to be people watching wrestling. It's going to be a much better show, because I'm freaking tired of watching empty arena wrestling. I'm tired of it. It's hard. I'm over it. I'm watching this show because it's literally our job, and it's not a bad show, but it's just I'm so over it. Like I'm sick of it, man.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. And I was watching Double or Nothing on Sunday night, and I'm like, I don't know that I could ever go back to watching
That's
empty arena
exactly.
wrestling, right?
Exactly.
That crowd was so hot, and I don't expect Impact to have a hot crowd like that, but give me something, give me some kind of crowd. And even tonight in the Alexander TJP match, just having those wrestlers around ringside cheering
Helped.
I thought made a big difference. Added
Absolutely.
a layer to the drama. I thought that was awesome. So,
Mm-hmm.
so let's go ahead and get into some other news.